the Putin visit. So President Putin's 30 hours in New Delhi. How do you see this panning out in the future? In the the joint the delegation that he brought, so business heavy. So many CEOs he brought with him. The Western world looking at this visit and wondering whether it is India tilting again towards Russia. How do you see this?
The visit is significant, obviously. We have very substantial ties that go back several decades. These have been constantly reaffirmed. But the visit now took place at a time when there is a deep divide. There is a divide between West and East, reminiscent of the divide during the Cold War. And the West is mobilizing all its resources, political, military, diplomatic, to somehow demonize Russia. And to suggest that either you are with us or against us. The kind of mantra that the Americans have had so many times in the past. And countries like India have been constantly saying, don't force us to make choices like this. We don't want a new Cold War. We want we want to retain the right to decide our own kind of relationship with different people. We are not hostile to the West, but we retain the right to shape and structure our ties with other countries. Now, Russia is extremely important for us, obviously with regard to defense supplies. They are the backbone of the Indian armed forces. All the crucial equipment that the Indian armed forces need have been provided by Russia, whether it is in the Navy or the Army or the Air Force. Plus, we are dependent on them for spare parts. They are much more economical. They also do joint ventures with us. There is transfer of technology, etc. We retain the right to diversify our sources, particularly with regard to niche energy. Niche requirements. But otherwise, we do deal with them very substantially. And then, of course, economic ties are very important. And more recently, the energy ties have become important. They supply 35% of our oil. So the Westerners are somewhat unable to understand, which is a failing on their part. Because India has always said that we are non-aligned. Don't push us into a corner. Don't put pressure upon us. Let us choose our own positions with regard to various issues. So that is why it got a certain resonance. Those three ambassadors wrote a joint letter. They wrote an article jointly in a newspaper criticizing the visit and the optics of it and all that, which is completely unacceptable. And on the other hand, you find the United States completely unpredictable, rather anxious to engage with the Russians and to have a peace process going in Ukraine.
But is it in bad form? Do you see it in bad form that this article came out in the newspapers?
Absolutely. It is unacceptable. Okay. Absolutely unacceptable. An ambassador is not meant to abuse the country that is giving him hospitality.
But the article was more about Putin, President Putin, rather than about India.
Yes, but it doesn't matter. He is an honored guest in our country.
Okay.
Would the American ambassador had liked it if the Russians had given an article in our media against Donald Trump's visit? This is not done. This is an abuse of hospitality. Also, one would ask, what purpose were you serving?
Okay.
Also, let's be very honest about it. The Ukraine war is originally created by circumstances within the Western Alliance, pushing NATO eastwards, threatening Russia. For the Western Alliance, the Cold War never ended, and they are co-opting more and more, countries into the NATO process. And they were now looking at Ukraine. And Biden himself said publicly that I fully understand the Russian position. And if I was in Putin's place, I would be totally opposed to the inclusion of Ukraine into NATO. He said this publicly. Because you're going to put nuclear missiles in Ukraine directed at strategic targets within Russia. So this is not acceptable, and all of us know this. So to present this, they were trying to present the crisis as if it's a totally one-sided matter. One side is good and the other side is evil. Simply not true.
Namaste, Jai Hind. You're watching ANI podcast with Smita Prakash.
अगर हम उसको मस्जिद कहेंगे तो फिर विवाद होगा।
The issue is टूटा है क्या भारत?
400 पार का मतलब ये है कि संविधान खतरे में है।
क्या हम लोग ये निर्देश देते हैं कि फला को गिरफ्तार करके जेल डाल दें?
वही तो कह रहे हैं सब।
ये बेबुनियाद निराधार आरोप।
सच्चा सुनना चाहो देखो स्मिता प्रकाश ANI, it does not lie.